Withstood.
Last year, we provided several reasons as to the connection between the parsha of Miketz and Chanukah. Every single year, there's a few possibilities of parshas that are read during Chanukah. Chanukah falls out always either during parshas Vayeshev, Miketz, or Vayigash. Most commonly, from a statistical perspective, it's parshas Miketz. So the obvious question is, what is the connection between the parsha of Miketz and Chanukah? There are many, many answers to this question. Before we provide any of the additional answers that we didn't discuss last year, near Lafini Istaiti, it could be that the simple explanation is as follows. I did some thinking after doing a lot of reading and research on this topic. Perhaps the answer could be, as we discussed in parshas Lech Lecha, it's very difficult to go against what everyone else is doing. As the Rambam teaches us in Hilchos Deos, derech briyosho shel adam limoshich acher sevivov. A person acts like the people that he is around. Just like Rav Shimshon Pinkas Asal explains, the sun rises in the east, Mizrach, Zoroch, it shines in the east, and it sets Mariv, Erev in the west. The root of Erev, of Mariv, which is the west, is Erev at night, because at night the sun sets in the west. Just like the sun rises and sets, so too we will act like those who we are around and follow the environment in which we are in. That being said, by means of an introduction, it's incredibly surprising, in a good way, that Yosef, the pious Yosef HaTzadik, he did not follow in the Egyptian ways and cultures, which were ways of idolatry and those beliefs. He stood up strong for what was correct. Not only that, but if we just zoom out for a minute and analyze the general situation that existed in Egypt, it's an incredible idea. Yosef, he had everything to complain about. He had every reason to be porek all, to completely forget about God, completely forget about the proper ways, and act inappropriately. After all, he was almost murdered. He was sold many times. He was cast into prison, to the dungeons of Egypt. But nevertheless, Yosef, he didn't give up. He kept strong and he kept his faith and in the right way, and he knew what was correct. Not only that, but statistically, people who have more money end up being less religious, whatever religion it is. They have nothing to pray for. They already have it all, so to say. Yosef had every reason not to follow in the right way. Every reason. He was very attractive, as we know the Torah tells us, and he was tested in that regard also. As the Nachlas V explains, who cares that he was attractive? Precisely because he was attractive, that's why the wife of Potiphar, Ashes Potiphar, tried to be intimate with him. Tremendous tests which he withstood and passed. But nevertheless, the wealthier a person is, many times the more difficult it is to stay religious. Yosef was tested with poverty and with wealth. He was tested in all situations, all scenarios. He was away from his entire family, away from everyone for a very extended period of time, a very long amount of time. And still Yosef withstood the test, and he stayed strong. He had the second to highest position. How many people would stay religious in that scenario? But Yosef kept to it. Yosef, Maisa Avos Sinim Lambanim, the actions that our forefathers do, that our ancestors do, are a sign for what the children will end up doing. Yosef implanted this ability for us to withstand everything that is going around us. That's Miketz. Chanukah is the same idea. Chanukah, the Yevonim, what happened? It's a very unique situation in our rich and long history with many persecutions throughout. Like we say in the Agadah. Every generation they try to kill us for different reasons. They try to do away with the Jews. tried to make libels of all sorts. But Chanukah, in the time of the Greeks, this is unique. They didn't want to physically annihilate us. It was a spiritual persecution. Spiritually. This year was the first year where I properly analyzed the story of Chana and her 7 sons. It's a fascinating story. Sad, fascinating, strong, encouraging. And you think about what was going on over there, what Antiochus, according to some versions of the story, was promising that 7th son. I'll give you wealth. You'll get whatever you want. It's not even a full idolatry. It looks like it's idolatry. Also with Elazar kohen, it's not a full idolatry. It just, I won't make you eat pork. It will just, other people will think you're eating pork. You won't. No, you can't give in. You see that in the time of Chanukah, they didn't give in one small amount at all. They completely withstood all tests that they were faced with. They believed. It's very difficult to go against the tides. When the rapids are level 4, level 5 rapids, when there's a hurricane, there's a storm, and you're going against the current, it's very, very difficult to go against that current, to go against it. And that's what Chanukah is about. That's what Miketz is about. When it's against all odds, to stay faithful and do the right thing. That's what it's about. That perhaps is a connection between them based on some thinking that I was doing. Another answer to this question, the Or Gedaliahu, Rav Gedal Yeshurun is Moadim Galus Yavun, or Maisavo Simon Labanim. He has a whole idea. Chanukah is about the ability for the Jewish people to withstand an attack on our core values. From Chanukah we learn that we should never have yish, we should never despair when we're challenged. And we also have to learn how to extract, how to take whatever good could be found hidden in the darkness. A little bit of light could push away a lot of darkness. This we learn from Yosef. This is why the stories of Yosef, we always learn about them during Chanukah. Yosef was the first Jew to be thrown into exile. And Yosef successfully set a positive example, maintaining his identity and not becoming lost in the Egyptian culture. He proved that we could survive in exile, even though it's so dark. We could survive through all the falsehood. The lesson, one of the many lessons of Yosef, is never give up while simultaneously finding a little bit of light in that darkness. A small amount of oil could go a long way, like on Chanukah. A little bit of truth could push away a lot of falsehood. Yosef taught us how we could survive and strengthen ourselves in exile, and this is precisely what Chanukah is about. Instead of just giving in to Yavon, the Greek oppression, being swallowed up by them, letting them dominate us, take over what our lives are about, the Jews, they stood up and they maintained their identity. They took care of it. They stood up for what was right. That's another connection between Chanukah and these parshas that we read about when it comes to Yosef. Lastly, another interesting idea about this is, Rabbi Zev Leff explains, it's quoted in Outlook and Insights, Parshas Miketz. If we just zoom out for a moment and don't look at face value what's in front of us, then we would realize that everything is for the good. We have to realize that even though it's dark, there's light. The stories of Yosef are read during Chanukah because many things seemed dim and dim and gloomy, and against all odds. And everything was bad. Yosef was sold, resold, almost murdered. Things look terrible. But as the events and as the story develops, we see that there was a deeper siyata deshmaya and divine plan over here and divine intervention. In the end, this seemingly tragic sale resulted in his rise to power in Egypt, which subsequently enables his entire family to survive during a time of extreme famine, and which ultimately led to the Exodus itself and the receiving of the Torah on Har Sinai. It's a beautiful idea. We have to zoom out sometimes. We discussed in the past that at the end, Yosef revealed himself, and he just uttered the mere words, Ani Yosef, I'm Yosef. Pasuk in Bereshis. Mem Hey, Gimel. And everything became obvious to Yosef's brothers what happened. So too Hashem is going to say at the end, says the Chafetz Chaim al Torah over there. Ani Hashem, I'm Hashem, and everything in this world will seem obvious. Questions that we were not able to answer, difficulties that transpired throughout history. The story of Yosef starts off in Parshas Vayeshev, last week's Parsha, and is finalized in Parshas Vayigash, next week's Parsha. Miketz is smack in the middle of this entire story, when there's zero clarity at all. Everything is foggy. We don't know what's going on. We're left with the cliffhanger. The parsha begins with uncertainty and ends that way as well. Yosef's in prison. Binyamin's fate is undetermined. We don't know what will happen. In Miketz, it's all fogginess. Nothing is resolved. But when we zoom out, since we know the entire story, we realize there's a master plan behind all of this. The sages who divided what we lane weekly, what we read about in the Torah weekly, they intentionally ended Miketz with a cliffhanger to teach us this idea. Even though all is, at the end of the day, is ultimately for the good. Kol ma'adav rachmana latavu avid. Gamzu latova, everything's for the best. Whatever happens, it's all part of Hashem's plan. Sometimes we have to wait, so to say, until next week's Parsha. We can't understand everything. We can't fathom, comprehend everything in this world. Parshas Miketz is therefore read on Chanukah most years, because the main message of Chanukah is that even though we're in times of uncertainty, we have to realize that there is light behind the darkness. Those are three new answers which we didn't cover in the past as to the connection between Miketz and Chanukah. I think that answer number one that I thought of is slightly different than two, because it has to do more with not giving into negative peer pressure, going against the flow, etc., as opposed to the second, which focuses more on despair and those ideas. Any questions, comments on this?
So the first one is about assimilation. The second one is more about, I think the second and third was similar.
Well,
No, we got wrong?
the first one, just to get a recap over here. The first one was more not giving into peer pressure, not just giving into society values that are incorrect. That was the first answer. That was the main idea. The second one is more not despairing, not giving up no matter what. Right? Don't become lost. It's a similar idea, but no matter what darkness there is, no matter how bad something is, forget about it. Just you'll be fine. Don't give in to that. And then the third one is more zoom out. Don't just think of, okay, what's going on right now. Right now everything looks bad, everything looks terrible, things won't get better. This is for the worst. No. Everything is for the best. That was more that. So there's slight nuances between the answers. In other words. Yeah. David, anything?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.